What's up, everyone? The Mark Weber here, doing something that's been promised. This is the video that was promised many times. And Patreon, as you guys know because you see the little banner and you hear us talk about it before every podcast, Patreon's a thing now, and you can go and give money as well on Patreon. And what you can do with that, when you give $5 a month, you get to be part of the Patreon Q&A. So the way this works, in case you didn't read the title of the video, this is our Patreon Q&A. If you read, or if you're at that $5 level, you have the option of, giving any questions. Every month we'll go ahead and put, hey, this is the video, or this is the Patreon, this is who's gonna do it. So that way you can ask the questions. And essentially, this is the end result. You get this video where we answer your questions. Not all the questions will be answered. Obviously, we can't answer everything, but the ones that are not answered, they will still stay in the queue or the little bowl where we'll pull them out and randomly pick some questions and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and first thank Patrick and Christian for giving us some awesome questions. Both of them are featured here. You've heard them on some of our podcasts before because they have joined us to have a Patreon special segment. But let's go ahead and let's do some of this. So the first question is going to be, right off the bat, what do you personally think is the most annoying fan base in sports? This one's tough for me because there's a lot of annoying fan bases, and I'm going to boil it down to some cities because I think that it pretty much captures everything, with one exception. So, honestly, Boston. I'm sorry. I am sorry to Boston fans out there. That fan base, it bugs me a little bit. It bugs me a little bit. Part of it is the Boston going with the New England Patriots, and they've had so much success. And I'm not trying to take that away from you, but it's made you arrogant. It's made you kind of arrogant. And maybe it's just because I have to listen to Sean talk about Tom Brady all the time, which bugs me. So I'm going to put them on there, but they're not the most annoying. I'm also going to throw the Seattle fan base in there because of the Seahawks. It's just the Seahawks. That's really what it is. And I feel bad for the Supersonics not existing. I'm sorry that your team was taken away from you and then they were successful. You guys have some nice bonding experience with the Cleveland Browns. But that fan base got annoying for a little bit too. And you might notice that a lot of these annoying fan bases are the bandwagoners. So let me jump to the one that is truly annoying. And I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so many of you probably want me to say the Green Bay Packers, and I wish I could, but honestly, the Packers fans have always been pretty good. I'm actually kind of okay with Packers fans, which is strange to hear from a Chicago Bears fan. But really, for what it is for me, it's Philly. It's Philly fans. I'm sorry. I know that the Eagles just won their Super Bowl. Philly just has that kind of a little bit arrogance, whether the team is good or not. It's almost like a pride in kind of being an asshole. There was the video, of course, with the beer bottle getting thrown at the Vikings fans. Patrick Sharp, around the time of the Super Bowl, he's on the Blackhawks, for anyone who's not a hockey fan. He was talking about when he was playing for the Flyers and how, cars would get keyed if they had the license plate of wherever the other team was. It's just a rowdy fan base that really will kind of make you hate them. I'm sorry. It's just the way that it is. Moving on. We're gonna stick with sports. We're gonna talk about who has the best and the ugliest uniforms in the NFL, not counting the color rush, because color rush is a terrible idea and it needs to end. Those uniforms are terrible. The best, obviously the Bears. I mean, that's a given. No, I think the best uniform, I'm not a super big fan of like the really simple ones, but I wouldn't call them ugly. Like the Colts, the Cowboys, the Lions. I think those are all very simple, very plain. I'd even go ahead and put the Arizona Cardinals in there, very just kind of simple and boring. Some of my favorites, the Texans. I I like combinations with like red and black, and so I know that they are not quite just red and black, but they have that very dark uniform that I really love. I love moving on to another one that has a very similar color. I love the Atlanta Falcons jerseys, just rich red with the black. If I'm gonna go the opposite direction, I do like the Miami Dolphins. That's a nice one. That very, I'm bad with color names, but that very light blue with the orange, I like that. That works very well for me. My favorite jersey of all time, as a Chicago Bears fan, is the Bears orange jersey. I love that jersey. That is an amazing jersey, and they never wear it. They don't wear it anymore. It's an alternate jersey that doesn't exist, essentially. The Seahawks. Seahawks have an amazing jersey. I love their jersey. Which is weird because when it first came out, when they first made some changes, it was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but now I really like it. Ugliest. You're going to notice a pattern for me. I just don't like yellow. I just don't like yellow on it. Like, yellow pants to me in football look ugly, so I'm sorry to the Washington Redskins. I don't like your uniform, even though I like the red part of it. I just don't like the yellow. The Packers. I know I just complimented the Packers fans out there, but I hate your uniform. I really do. I know it's a classic. I know it's such a staple to the NFL, but man, is it ugly. Green and yellow. What combination is that? Not into it at all. I'm sorry, Packers fans. Just not into it. Would I rather see the Bulls win an NBA championship or the Bears win a Super Bowl? Easy, Bears. I don't care about the Bulls. Screw you guys. I honestly would take one single Super Bowl win by the Bears, and in order to do that, to have the Bulls never win a single NBA championship from this point forward. I don't care. I will take that. I am such a Bears fan that I will take that. I mean, obviously, all the Bulls fans out there, I'm not trying to take things away from you. And Michael Jordan is the shit, so go Bulls and all that. But for me, it's the Bears. I just want to see him. Maybe it's because I saw him lose a Super Bowl, so I just want to see them win one of these days. Moving forward, what made us decide to create the MVP podcast? And Christian, I'm assuming, just means most valuable podcasts in general, unless he's talking about a specific podcast. You can actually, if you're a patron, we talked about it, and by we, I mean I think it was Ricky and Dave, talked about it in a very, very early Patreon podcast. So you can certainly find that there for a really drawn-out, detailed answer. Really, what it was we had the Onside Kick, and we were doing that for a long time. And at first, we talked about everything. You know, I wasn't even on it at the very beginning. Eventually, when I was on it, we were talking about everything. Basketball, hockey. I actually remember doing a podcast all by myself one of these days. And this is back when we were literally in a closet. It was like a room that honestly is about this wide. And we would shove ourselves in there like sardines in a can. And anyways, I did this one where it was just me talking about hockey the entire time, and that's just, we talked about whatever. It really what it came down to. Then we were like, well, we're the Onside Kick. We probably should talk football because that's what makes sense. And that's what we kind of moved towards that. When we had a graphic conversation, this was just something between Ricky and I where I was like, hey, Ricky, what do you think about this show idea? I think this would be cool. We started doing it. We were part of a different network for that show. That didn't work out super well for us, so we took it back off of that network. And then we had two shows, football podcast, graphic novels. They didn't connect at all. So we had the original videos for a graphic conversation. The original podcasts were on my personal YouTube channel. Because they just didn't mesh. So eventually we were like, well, let's do this MVP thing. And I still remember the aha moment in my head where I was like, wait a minute, MVP should stand for Most Valuable Podcasts. And I remember this aha moment where I'm like, Ricky, Dave, look what I came up with. Be proud of me. And it's just, it made so much sense, and it really allowed us to just combine these things and say, all right, now we can talk about whatever we want. And we still always kind of talk a little bit more about sports than anything else, but we definitely have more and more nerd stuff, and just you wait, because there's going to be some more good nerd stuff for all of you out there as well. So that's honestly, that's kind of what made MVP happen. It was really the answer of combining the sports stuff with the graphic novel nerd stuff. We just needed a way to combine those, and then from doing that, it allowed us to expand on more and more with the Fast Break, with the Primetime Podcast. I believe I got those in the wrong order. Rick and Johnny Podcast. You know, we've been able to do anything we want since then. My best and my worst sports memory. Best sports memory would be Devin Hester returning the opening kickoff in the Super Bowl for a touchdown. Worst memory, the rest of that game, unfortunately, with the Bears losing the Super Bowl. I pretty much had blocked that out. I remember I was with a group of friends, we're watching the Super Bowl, and I just remember one of my friends crushing a like ceramic bowl that we had chips in. It was full of chips still, and just crushed the damn thing because he was so pissed off that the Bears were about to lose the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning should only have one ring. Anyways, childhood toy or item that I still have? Well, I don't really have very many childhood toys. This isn't a toy, but I've had it since I was in like 5th grade. I had my original guitar that I had, which is a Lotus. Those of you who are guitar players out there, there's a good chance you never heard of the brand Lotus. It was essentially I believe if I'm remembering right, it's a Chinese knockoff of Fender. And they're pretty cool. They have a weird sound to them. They're not really used because they're not made anymore. But there's been some bands out there that have used Lotus guitars, and they're interesting. They have a very unique sound. The other thing I would say is I actually still have my baby blanket from when I was a wee young lad. I have this baby blanket, the little blue thing with the little bear on it. I've always kept that just because I had the thought of one day I'm gonna maybe have a son, and I can give him this blanket. And if I don't have one, maybe my sister will have a son, and I can give it to my nephew. So that'll work out. Got one last question here before we wrap it all up. This last question, what is your favorite and what is the worst part about living in Chicago? I'm a big music person. I love music. I played in a bunch of bands and stuff. I played shows myself. I've been to a million shows, whether it was back in the radio days of getting into them for free, which is awesome, or the ones where you just pay for it. Honestly, the best thing about Chicago, we get all of it. You know, I think about if I were to live in like Milwaukee or Indianapolis or even a small city in Illinois, like a Peoria or something like that, or DeKalb. And you get these cities where they'll randomly get some shows, and that's about it. And we really take it for granted in Chicago, and that's something I realized that I take it for granted. If I have a band I like, if they're going on tour, they're going to play in Chicago. I will have the chance to see them. There are people out there, and especially when I connect with fans of some of my favorite bands, like a Coheed and Cambria or the Deer Hunter or something like that, and they'll be like, man, I have never seen Coheed live. I'm like, how have you never seen Coheed live? Well, I'm from Boise, Idaho. Oh, all right, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Why would a band go to Boise, Idaho? So I take that for granted that you have all these festivals. I mean, we got Lollapalooza, we got Riot Fest. We have a ton of awesome shows that come to Chicago, and that, people from all over the place, all in the Midwest, will come to Chicago for these shows. That's awesome. The worst part is the snow, without a doubt. The snow and the cold. That's really what it is. I mean, I lived in the heart of Chicago for a little bit, and waiting for a bus when it's like sub-0 degrees is terrible. Or, having to walk a mile because you don't really have a car in Chicago. It's pretty terrible when it's below zero weather out there. The other day we had a really huge series of snowstorms that lasted about 3 days, pretty much closed down the entire city. And I literally had to go out and snowblow and shovel multiple times in that day, and then still the next day had to, that morning, dig my car out of even more snow. we measured in the backyard, and there was about 15 or 16 inches of snow in the backyard. My dog has not left this small little area that's covered by an awning of the roof, where it covers some of the ground. He still has not left that area because he doesn't want to go into the snow because the snow is taller than he is. That's the worst thing in Chicago. It's snow, it's cold, it's terrible. And then you get potholes everywhere, and then your car gets ruined. So that's the worst thing about living in Chicago. But the greatest thing, music and the Chicago Bears, obviously. And we had Michael Jordan. So what are you going to do? We had the best basketball player of all time. Fight me. Let me know if anyone disagrees with things I said, especially something like the ugliest uniforms in the NFL. If you think I insulted your team, oh, the Bucs, their uniform is terrible as well. I hate the Bucs. I'm sorry, Ricky. He just made a face at me. The Bucs uniform is terrible.
The ones right now, or are you talking about
right
like
now?
Okay,
they're awful.
Okay, because the one with like the actual buck on it and it's like purple. That's my favorite one. That's one of my favorites.
Just
besides the Pistons one.
No, Pistons don't play in the NFL, though. The question was specifically about the NFL.
No, I'm saying NBA, like because you brought up the Bucs.
Yeah, if we're going to NBA, there's a lot of really good NBA uniforms. Oh no, I'm not. Okay, no, okay, I get why you say that with the Bucs, not Milwaukee Bucks, the other Bucs, the ones that are in Tampa Bay. Yeah,
the creamsicles.
The Tampa Bay. No, I'm just talking about their genuine uniform with the weird,
creamsicles are worse.
Alarm clock lettering and numbers.
Creamsicles are worse though.
But yeah, so the Bucs, you guys, Tampa Bay Bucs, you have a terrible uniform as well. Milwaukee Bucks, I actually kind of like your uniforms. You're all right. Let me know if you disagree about any of that stuff. Sorry, I just went right back into it. Get at me on Twitter at @TheMarkWeber or @MostValuablePod. The way you submit your questions, $5 tier on Patreon, you can put some of your questions down below. I mean, maybe we'll pick some favorites and add them in there as well. But if you do the $5 Patreon, you're guaranteed that at least one of your questions will be answered for sure. I'll go ahead and make that promise right now because why not? But honestly, you'll get multiple ones for sure. And if something doesn't get answered today, it will probably get answered in the following videos that are coming up. So I will see you guys in more videos. Don't forget to check out our latest mock draft. I'll plug my own stuff on the Onside Kick, Mock Draft 3.0. Really excited for the draft coming up. But yeah, keep checking stuff out and get at us on Twitter @MostValuablePod. I'll see you guys next time.